welcome everyone to Quest, a journey into true crime and paranormal. My name is Misti Gaither, and I am just so excited to be here to bring you our second installment of the show. And I have with me my co host, Cody McLain, and my very special guest, psychic medium Sean Michael Rutherford, also known as Auntie Sean.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about a plethora of subjects having to do with being a psychic medium, also about how that plays into true crime. Just a wonderful conversation, and I can't wait to get started. What about you?
Yeah, I can't wait either. This is
Yeah.
my first time on the show, although it is the second show, but I'm really excited to hear about all this.
Okay, great. So, Sean, first question that I'm sure that you're asked many times is, when did you know, like when you were younger, or that you had the gift?
For seeing dead people as a kid, when you see this little kid running around your house that you keep playing with, that you don't put two and two together because he's always in the room before you get there, and oh, just an imaginary friend. And then you see another person in your room, and you see another person, and it's like, tell your mom, and she's like, you're not special, you're just Cajun. And I was like, thanks.
Right.
That's for therapy later.
Right.
And then when I was in school, growing up and being bullied like I was, I had these very emotional moments, and I would know things about my bullies because they were like close proximity in my space. And then later, years later, I would contact them and be like, hey, so look, I forgive you for what you did. I also knew that your dad did X, Y, and Z, and I also know that your mom abused you. And they're like, how'd you know that? I never told anybody. And you're like, oh, crap.
Right.
And you realize that these things are real, these things are happening, and you put two and two together, and you do a little research, and you realize that you're just picking this stuff up. And then you look back and realize, that's why my mom was saying that she always felt odd in the house, and she knew this, and grandma always said X, Y, and Z. I think everyone can do this, but I think the people who put a lot of effort into mastering it do it like me, which is a daily basis.
Now, let me ask you something. Was this like the gift handed down from generations in your family, or were you the first one who had it, or how did it happen?
So again, I'm just not special, I'm just Cajun.
Right.
So my mom...
You could at least brought boudin. I don't
right.
know.
We're not in Lafayette. That's the only
Right.
place
Well,
you could
you
do
could
that.
have stopped. No.
So yeah, my mom and my grandma talked about things like this happening a lot when they were growing up. So my mom said in her house, you'd see, things move across the house, or things move, or you'd feel like a hand touch you, in the dark, and they just chalked it up to being loved ones. And this was just something that was totally understood. Growing up in Cajun, background, my mom's grandfather was a traiteur, and so it was no big deal to have a guy come over who only spoke French and was like, we're going to do prayers, and we're going to do this and do healing work. So the paranormal and spiritual was always very present growing up. And the fact that our dead are buried 6 feet in front of our faces, it was super normal to be discussed, but it wasn't kind of a, oh, you can do this. It was a, oh, it's no big deal. And then when you start doing it on purpose in a teenage year, because you're like, I need to investigate what's going on, that's when it got odd. Everyone was like, oh no, this is just normal. And then it's like, oh, so you're doing a thing. Oh, that's cool. And then you just kept going. I don't think it was necessarily handed down, but I do think it was, because it was so common, it made it more comfortable to learn in my family.
Well, let me ask you this: like, is there any spirit, or like a spirit guide, or anything that has came with you, grown with you through the years, has when you were a child, that's like kind of stayed with you all these years, or do you have like a special ancestor that you may rely on, or spirit guide, or anything like that when you're contacting those that are crossed?
Now it's always my mom, because my mother passed in 2014 from cancer, and so now I see and deal with her all the time. But growing up, my dad's mom had passed when I was a very small child. I remember seeing her a lot and feeling her a lot. There's a plethora of dead people in spirit. A lot of dead people. And I've noticed that depending on what I'm dealing with, where I'm at in my life, what issues I get into, I have a little bit of a different voice every time. So I am very open to whomever wants to help, because God knows I need it, especially when tax season rolls around. And
Don't we all?
I talk to dead people, not numbers. And so it's very helpful, but it's a lot more common than people think. Anytime you are thinking about a loved one and out of nowhere and all of a sudden someone brings up their name, that's them being like, oh yeah, this is why you're thinking about me. So I don't think there's any necessarily one person. I think it's, your whole crew.
Yeah, because I noticed that when my dad died last year, and then all of a sudden I started getting the feathers.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would step out of my car at work, and
I remember that.
yeah, and as soon as my foot hit the ground, there'd be a feather there. There'd be a feather right in front of our door at the house. I mean, I have like, and a huge feather. I don't know what he was trying to say, but this feather was like this big, and and I didn't know. I mean, this is off track, but just bear with me a moment. I didn't know that you're not supposed to keep feathers.
What?
Yeah, Google it. Siri.
Okay.
I can't.
No, but okay. But seriously, you're not supposed to, like, if you find feathers, you're not supposed to keep them. But I did because, I was like, well, that's my dad, like showing me that he's around me. And which was kind of ironic because when I was growing up, my mom and him fought me so hard with having the gift, and they didn't understand it, and then our religion, and I mean, just so many factors. But anyway, it was just really kind of cool because we made peace before he died, and then for him to, even on the other side, show that he cares and he loves. That really meant a lot, and so one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on is because you're one of our top psychic mediums here in New Orleans, and this is a true crime and paranormal show.
Mm-hmm.
And so for anybody who's known me more than 1 second knows that I'm really into both of those subjects, and I like merging when I can the two together. And I like about what you said. And let's talk about this, and also, which kind of ties in together, is our show is sponsored, we're sponsored by the Haunted Hotel, which if you haven't been,
that's
on
cool.
Ursulines. And it is haunted. I've been there, boom. And it is where the Axeman, which if you watched last week's episode, you know more about the Axeman than what you probably want to know. But you can stay at 623 Ursuline and contact them. It's really a beautiful place to stay at. Their courtyard's wonderful. And also our show, we've partnered with Crime Stoppers because I think that it's important for us to get the word out there about different cases. And there's people out there that need help. In every case, someone knows something.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about the ethics part.
Oh my God.
Okay, so you have the gift
Mhm.
of a psychic medium. I have the gift. And so, maybe we look at something and we may pick up on things about, like, okay, this is maybe key to this case, or, I wonder if the family, they should know this, or, what can I do? But if you're a true psychic medium, there is a line that you're not supposed to cross unless you are invited to.
Correct.
So let's talk about that, the ethics of being a medium, psychic medium, to do with those that have passed.
Well, we have to remember that everyone has the right to privacy. That's a big part of our life, both alive and dead. Just because I get messages about something that happened to you doesn't mean I have the right to go blurt it all over social media, which is mostly how things get shared today.
Sure.
So just because I hear about a crime or might get flashes of something because it's a very emotional, a very energetically big event, doesn't mean I have the right to go and share that for a couple of reasons. One, it's very likely it's going to get back to the family, and now you're going to be, as a grieving person, see someone making your loved one's passing about their being seen.
Right.
And now you're turning the tide from the case to you. Well, that's one big ethical issue where it's not about you. Even as a medium, when I'm doing work, when I'm connecting with loved ones, whether it's in a reading or for fun, it's not about me. It's about the person who's coming through in spirit to relay a message. So I have to give up that space. If I'm making it about, hey, look at me, I got this information, that first part, hey, look at me, is the problem. Two, if you do get information that's accurate, and you are good enough to get really clear information about how someone got unalived or passed, you share that on public access and social media or wherever, and it comes out to be accurate and it is part of the case, it can very easily be thrown out of court. Because, well, how did that get around? Who told them? Who was talking about it? Because people aren't going to necessarily believe that you're a psychic medium. They're going to believe that somebody was blabbing. And if everybody knows about it now, they're not going to use that as evidence. And it can hurt the case. Even if it doesn't actually happen, the chance of it causing a problem with the case is the problem.
So it's like, sometimes psychic mediums, like in your heart, you think you're doing a good thing,
Mm-hmm.
but yet in the end, you wind up doing more harm than good.
Absolutely.
And so, what you're saying is, with the ethics, it's better to be invited in with the family to to invite you to do these things instead of you just like, hey, I got this information of who killed your brother or whomever, and that way it's all. And then a lot of times they'll discuss with the investigators,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like a three thing where it all meets and,
Yeah.
and does like it's supposed to. I do have a bit of trivia that y'all may not know. Maybe y'all do. But what is the only city in America who actually had one case? It's only one case documented in America where they allowed a psychic medium to testify. Do you know this one?
I do not. I am not a
Oh.
history buff.
Well, I lived it. No, seriously. It is Gretna.
No
Really?
kidding.
Gretna was the only one. That's the only one who has allowed a psychic medium to testify in a murder case.
Do you remember the murder?
Daigle was the last name, and I believe, if I am not mistaken, that the psychic medium was Carolyn Pace. And so, if y'all want to Google that, but I actually had seen that, and I was like, Gretna, but
interesting.
like
Next
what's
door.
going on, right?
That's incredibly interesting.
And she had seen, she actually told them about the people who murdered him in the stole his truck and was going down to Slidell. As they were speaking on the phone, they get on the phone, they get in their car, go after, and that's
They're
how
right
they caught
there.
him. That's how they caught him.
That's
And so
cool.
they called her in to testify.
Kidding.
Yeah, it was kind of wild, but that, to my knowledge, and I may be wrong, but that's the only psychic medium that's been
That's
allowed to do. And the reason that they had her not was because she saw about how that they caught him,
That's cool.
what led up. So that's so there's, we're living in such a huge area with so many unsolved murders, missing people.
Yep.
You hear about it every day. A lot of the missing person cases, especially in New Orleans, like last saw them on Bourbon Street.
Yep.
Unfortunately, a lot, but thankfully, a lot of the times they'll come back or show up.
Yeah.
But I think about so many of the people whose loved ones, like it's been years, and they don't know where they are, and it's like, what happens? Do you believe in it used to sound kind of crazy, but now with the developments going on about the UFOs and
Yeah.
people being, I don't know what your beliefs are on that, but it's like, I don't know. I used to didn't believe in stuff like that, but it's
Neither did
like
I.
without a trace, they're standing there on the phone, and they get there and nobody's there. The phone's like, what is your take on that?
I absolutely think it is egotistical to think that we are alone in this universe.
Sure.
So, but with people disappearances, I've had family members contact me and get sessions to see about missing loved ones, and it's not very often. And I think it's more so that they're afraid to figure out to get a solid answer. But I've had it where I'm like, look, this person feels alive to me, but because they still feel very intentional, they still have these intentions of living, and I wanted these changes. And I do feel like a lot of people do have more, I need to up and leave my life. We face with mediumship and psychism when it comes to reading someone who has gone missing, because we face this moral conundrum. You have a loved one who's in front of you who's missing this person. You also have to take into account, did the person who leave intentionally? If they are missing, quote unquote, but they left because they were living in a very abusive life,
Yeah.
they can't let anyone know. So I do think people do tend to abscond their life a lot more than we realize they do. I did that when I left my hometown and moved here. It was literally kind of like an overnight decision. People didn't know where I was going because I wasn't in any kind of danger. But I think we need to realize that there's a lot more abuse going on in the world than we realize. But I do believe that people, I don't know if I believe necessarily spiritually, but I do believe that there are odd things in this world where people go missing for no reason. I do believe in aliens, but not necessarily, I don't know if it's the way everybody else does. But I do believe that there's always some sort of spiritual understanding that they're either okay or that they passed. We are animals, And animals have this thing that if they're not in a safe place, they'll sort of leave their group to get away from the masses to not get them sick.
So like the fight or flight kind of?
Yeah. And so like if an animal's dying, it's going to leave their home to not get the rest of the group sick.
Right.
And I think we as people do the same thing, but we've rationalized that it's, oh, they're having anxiety or they're having this. I think that's happening a lot more. And because a lot of times when I've had that happen with, I didn't hear from someone for a couple months, they're like, oh, I was grieving and I just need to get away from my life. Mm-hmm. People don't think about that because they tend to be very I focused, not us focused. And so I haven't really seen a lot of experiences where the person leaving, it's either they passed, like some horrible thing happened where they were on a trip and then they died and no one knew.
Yeah.
Or it's, they probably started a new life, to be honest. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and it's like, you see it on, I'm a YouTube buff. I mean, I listen a lot all day about, crimes and paranormal and stuff.
Really?
It's a gift. It's a gift. Somebody's got to do it. But yeah, I have my little, little buds or whatever in and listen to my, while I'm typing away at my day job. But anyway, and hear a lot of the cases, and there'll be people that's been gone for 40 years, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we ran her social security number, and grandma opened up a checking account all of a sudden, and oh, I just left, and like you were saying, and that happens a lot, and then and then sometimes it's not the results like you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know what freaks me out is the people who go missing and they come back and they look or act completely different.
Like where they've been.
Like that little boy who went missing in the wilderness for 4 days, and they found him in a shed, and he started acting different and looked different. That's what freaks me out. I completely agree that there's a lot of negativity, I guess, in the world that we don't know about. You don't know what your friends are going through because they're not going to tell you. Mm-hmm. It's embarrassing, but they're going to fight or flight, and they're going to jump up and they're going to leave, and they're not going to tell anybody. And to us, oh my God, that person just went missing, but no, they're probably finding a safe place. And humans' decisions are run on emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
100%.
When we live, it's, like I said, in such a city where it's, you have so many visitors, and you have, it's not just about the missing. And I mean, we have one of the highest murder rates,
Oof.
in
the mafia.
in the country. I don't even know about the mafia. I mean, it's just so many people out there killing each other.
Yeah.
And then not talking, and people know who killed so and so, but it's like they're either don't want to get involved, or they're scared to get involved, or they're involved.
I always tell people
it's like
I always tell people that New Orleans is a beautiful, magical city, but it's a dangerous city.
Yeah.
Oh, it is no doubt.
You can turn the corner and be involved in something that you don't want to be involved in.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I want to put up now, while we're on the subject, and this crime, and I just, every show we're just going to focus on an unsolved homicide or missing person or whatever through Crime Stoppers. And thank you for the hat, Darlene. But, I don't know why. And this case really stood out to me because they have lots and lots of cases that hasn't been solved. But this case, it caught my attention. And Marjorie Shorty, and she was found 2017. And as you'll know, she died at her home. She was stabbed to death several times. And a really interesting story came out in 2016 about Miss Shorty, was that then Lieutenant Governor Mitch Landrieu, I believe, I think he was Lieutenant Governor then, he saved her in Katrina. And the only thing that she got from her home was a clock. She was able to take to the boat when he pulled up in the boat to rescue her. And they said, why did you bring the clock? And she said, because no matter where I'm at, I want to know what time it is. And that was in 2016. And I guess Mitch was doing maybe a political thing or something. And there was at CVS, and she stood up and she said, I got something to say. It was at 2016. And She said, "I'm the one that you saved with the clock."
I vaguely remember a news story about that.
Yeah.
Vaguely remember one.
And then not too long after that, months later, she made it through Katrina, and she had her clock, and then it was her time on August the 13th. And to this day, over, I'm not good at math, but 6 years. Hey, there I go. But no, seriously, 6 years, and her killer or killers have not been brought to justice. And I don't know why, but this case always has stuck out to me. And so I wanted her to be one of the first ones that I, just show on here if anybody knows anything, or just to remember her. And that she lived and she had a life, and she has daughter and kids, and, she was married, and just someone, whoever it was, just decided that she wasn't going to live anymore. So if you know anything about Marjorie Shorty's passing, call Crime Stoppers.
How completely selfish for somebody to decide.
She took her, and that's what gets me, because, it's all about time. She took her clock because she wanted to know what time everything was, and then yet somebody stole time from her.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of ironic to me, and how, in the thing that just stands out. So
I think there's the fact that she, almost perished in Katrina. Mm-hmm. And then she's saved by someone who is like a Louisiana official. Mm-hmm. And then she's killed later. And now there are connections with personal relationships with Louisiana officials, mm-hmm. where there should be like a lot of like, oh, I saved this woman. Like, we need to make sure she's like, her killer's found.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I think like that helped make it a bigger case, because now there are people who actively know her in the law enforcement,
sure,
to make sure it stays open. Mm-hmm. And so I think, had she not had him save her, how maybe just lost in the cases she could have been, mm-hmm. like so many others. But there's this personal connection, so now it's unfortunate that that's kind of maybe what it took, but maybe that's why he had to save her, was so that he could save her later.
Yeah. And it's been, like I said, it's been 6 years, and there's still hope, because there's people's murders that's been solved through mm-hmm. the genealogy that's taken by storm mm-hmm. since they did the Golden State Killer, that had been going on, 30, 40 years, or however long it had been.
Yep.
So, justice will come. It may not be in the time that we want it to be, her family. Thank you, Brandon, so much for putting that up, but that's our case for tonight. But if you ever want to go and kind of look at all the missing persons unsolved, they go back, I know, at least to 1981. Wow. And it's, that's still on the books. And you go and you see each one, and you read about what happened on their death. And it's, like a gentleman that was just mowing his yard.
And
a car came and just...
That's on the website, crimestoppersgno.org.
Right. Right, crimestoppersgno.org, and it's a great organization. I met with the president last week, Darlene, and they're going to do their night out against crime, mm-hmm. and I'm going to be posting soon the dates for all that. I believe that's October the 17th, and we're going to try to be there to show our support. And like I said, we're in partnership now. So
I will say, 31 years old, and I'll never forget the number, 504-822-1111.
There you go.
Never forget it.
Yep. And that's it. So, you are doing readings and all things psychic mediumships full time now.
Yes, I work from home. All of my sessions are done either by Zoom or phone call. I like people to feel comfortable in their homes. Mm-hmm. I like when people who have situations like this come to me. I do my best to try to make a living doing this with people who are just interested for the fun of it. So that way I have time to work with those who are really, really grieving, to help people heal. I try to do public demonstrations where it might be like a $20 ticket, and there might be a room full of people who can just watch me get work and maybe get a reading, or just kind of see how this works. And I try to make it as accessible as possible, because I do know there are people out there who are genuinely in need of the healing work that mediumship is.
Right.
And I try to leave the psychic work to people who are trying to find direction in their life, but are also just like looking for a bit of a parlor trick, so to speak. They like the fun of it. Like they like getting read for filth the way Auntie Sean does. And telling them about
The
themselves.
filth reader.
Yes. I will be like, oh, honey, you are the drama. And so they love that because it's fun. And also, I mean, it's always meant to be helpful and healing. But I try to make the mediumship where it's like, you're dealing with grief. Let's focus on that. Because her family, was Maggie or Margie?
Margie.
I'm terrible with names. I can literally
Margie.
look at your name and never remember it 5 seconds later. Her family are still grieving.
They are.
You know, and so
Yeah.
when I have someone who lost someone 20 years ago or 20 days ago or 20 minutes ago, you know, there's this sense of like, let's help you understand that this is here. Let's help you understand that these people are okay. You know, Margie's in spirit. She's fine. She's well, and she's not angry because she doesn't have bills to pay, and she's healthy, and there's nothing to worry about. There's no stress there. She's concerned about her loved ones getting that same healing and while they're still alive. So she's up there trying to console them and be there for them. But it's here to help people realize that you need to work on you, focus on you. If you need to see her killer brought to justice, that's what you need to do. Then that's fine. But she wants you to be okay. And so, I wish there were, the world we didn't live in where I could be like, yeah, okay, this is what I get about Miss Margie, yada yada yada. But there is that sense of like, does this person's family believe in this?
Right.
Do I offend them in the effort to help them? But who am I to impose that upon them? And so it's just one of those things where, reach out to people, ask. I'm the kind of person who, if you respect my work, then I will respect you. If you come to me with attitude or being cruel and making fun of it, then I'll be like, look, I'm not going to talk to you.
Right.
But I've had people be like, look, I really can't afford this. Can we have a short conversation? I've had people be like, look, I will cook you dinner. I don't have money, but I will cook you dinner. And I'd be
can
like,
do that.
hold up.
Hey.
Are we allowed to cut?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, my fat ass will totally let you cook me dinner. Can I bring my boyfriend along because he likes to eat too? And
Right.
so but helping people who are genuinely in a bad spot, who don't have the money. That's what I work hard for on a daily basis for the people who have the money to buy readings. So I can afford to take care of people who don't. And, it's a world we live in where the only thing that really can help with a lot of the stress is hope. Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to peddle. It's just the realization of that, regardless of how you find hope, that's all that matters. But it's hard when we live in a world like this.
It really is. And, I don't know. I was just thinking about when, people that come to me and want readings or whatever. And something that I always tell them is, this is not just for you.
Mm-hmm.
It is also for those that have passed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because they need peace. And they're wanting you to know they're okay, or wanting to know that you're okay. And so it's kind of like you're bridging the gap between the dead and those that are living, and to bring peace to both.
I've had to disclaimer with my clients quite often. You're going to hear from who you need to, not who you want to. And then we can get into the want to.
I actually have a question about that. I don't have a gift, right? And that's
we all
fine.
do. You just haven't connected to it yet.
Maybe not. But I do have a question. Whenever you are talking to somebody or helping somebody, both of you, do you ever have an instance where it's more than one spirit trying to get through or trying to talk?
Yes.
And how does that feel? What is that like?
So it's like being, excuse me, it's like being at work when all of your coworkers and your boss are like, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that. And at one point you're just like, shut up. So, especially when I do galleries. So galleries are when we do platform mediumship in front of a group of people.
That's when the question came up when you
There will
mentioned that you do
be
that.
10 people in line, or like just I will see them spattered around the audience, and I'm like, and as soon as I start noticing them, I start getting this like I feel a heart attack here. Oh, I feel a stroke. Oh, I feel like cancer. Oh, I feel this old age, whatever it is, and I'm like, okay, excuse me, can y'all stop? Can y'all get in line, like single file,
Right.
Just because y'all are dead doesn't mean y'all are animals. Let's go. And so, it does happen. And then I have had where I'll reading for one person in the room, one-on-one, and they've had so many people who've passed. And it's just like a cacophony of people in my head. And I have to be like, okay, who represents the family? And because I'm gay, because I'm Auntie Sean, it's always going to be a grandmother or a mom or an auntie. Grandma comes in and she's like, that'd be me. And I'm like, yes, ma'am, it would.
Right.
And so we do get them. We do have to work with them because they're conscious, they're intelligent, just like we are.
Yeah.
And we need to do this. I know that y'all know that my potential of doing this is way bigger than I probably realize it is. But I am human, and I am tired. So there is that. But most of the time, it'll usually start off as a trickle, one person, and then once you get rolling into it, it's much more comfortable to deal with. Oh, so Grandma's talking about so and so's here, and it just becomes kind of more organized.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, when you just have that one person who comes in and they're just really emotional because they've lost a lot of people,
Yeah.
and just like 5 people show up, and you're just like, shut up, shut up. Who's first?
Who's first?
Yeah.
Get it together, right? I mean, it is, and it gets overwhelming sometimes, like you were saying, and then like one of the things that I have the problem with is at nights trying to sleep, and I don't know, you've probably perfected that where they don't bother you like they do me, but it's like, hold up, I need to sleep, you know.
I've had issues where, and I love telling these stories because I specifically, like, I've talked to clients where certain weird things will happen, and the spirit will be like, use this as a, talking point. So everything that I talk about in instances have been okayed by these clients, but I won't mention names. But I've had issues where, like, all day I'll be constipated, and then I'll go to the reading, and so-and-so's loved one passed, and they had, like, colon cancer, and they hadn't pooped for, like, weeks. And then as soon as the reading's done, I am off to the races. And I'm like, never again do you understand me. The sleep thing, I've had dreams in my sleep about loved ones, and they would very vivid. And even talking about only a couple, because no, we're not doing that. Because they would be very emotional, and I'd see how they passed.
Yeah.
And I'd wake up, and I'd be in such a foul mood from, like, witnessing 2 young people pass, which was one that I got very angry with Spirit for. I said, y'all know I don't like this. If y'all do this again, I will actively not do that reading because you're disrespecting my boundaries. I will deal with this in the session where I can compartmentalize this. But when I'm sleeping and I'm trying to rest and I'm having to wake up in my morning routine, which I am not a morning person, first of all, I can't process that.
Yeah.
And so do not bother me when I'm sleeping. And it's been like 2 years since.
Wow.
Do not do that again.
I'm kind of jealous because not only do y'all have the gifts, but like you have been visited by somebody, in terms of the feathers and stuff. I have so many loved ones that I adore. Uncle Al, Grandma, nothing. I don't see anything. I don't feel anything.
I will argue that until I'm blue in the face.
Maybe you're just not looking.
That.
Yeah. Like you don't realize, and the signs are there, and they're there.
Spirit communication is a whisper, it's not a yell, because they want you to be able to take it in as a normal thing. When my mom died, I was seeing a therapist through the hospice company, and I went in and I had a nice little conversation with him. Like, I'm a medium, so you need to understand that I lost my mom 3 times. And he's like, what? I said, I lost my mom when I found out she had cancer, lost my mom when she died, and I lost my mom the other day when she visited me and then left again. And he's like, okay. So the first session, I'm just like, I don't know if this is going to work. Maybe I can just do this on my own. I come down, and there's a butterfly sitting on the rearview mirror of my car on the driver's side. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, it's Louisiana. We have a ton of butterflies, especially during spring. Okay. Well, I walk up to my car. Butterfly goes nowhere. It's a beautiful monarch, beautiful, perfect monarch. And it's just sitting there. And I'm like, okay. I walk up to my car. Doesn't move. I open the door, and it's the kind of side mirror where it opens with the car. Yeah. Doesn't go anywhere. Wow. I slam the car door shut because I'm like, I'm going to make it leave. Doesn't go anywhere. I go, okay, Mom, thanks, love you, and it flies off.
I had a situation like that with a wasp.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I would call it that, especially, was it for like a male who'd passed?
Oh, I have no idea. You see, and I can't connect those things. I'm not good at connecting things like that.
So for the future, anytime you have a weird experience with like I kept finding this ladybug in my room, and I was like, okay, I'd put it out, and I'd come back, and it was there, and I was like, I just put you out. Little things like that. Next time you have an experience like that, who are you thinking about? What are you dealing with? Be in that moment.
Yeah.
What's going on right now with me? And the wasp. I bet you get real present when you're having to dodge wasps because I'm not gonna get stung. And if one of my loved ones calls me to get stung, I'm putting them on the blacklist.
Right, you're not coming through for shit.
But you have to become very focused, and that's the point. Is that the reason it's a whisper is because when someone whispers, you listen. Mm-hmm. And so if they yell at you, you can be like, oh, that's a lot. So just be more present, like when these little things happen, or you're going somewhere and all of a sudden you hear someone's name that you know has passed. It can be as simple as that, but you don't know where it came from. And think about what you're thinking about in that moment, and then go, oh, okay, I get that now.
Being mindful and looking. And one of the things that I kind of look for too is dates. You know, like maybe dates of the passing or a birthday or an anniversary, and usually not 100% of the time, of course, but, you know, you feel like the loved ones maybe around you a little bit more or, you know, around that time. So our song comes on the radio and you're like, oh, yeah, we used to listen to that together, or, you know, they're there. They're always there.
Yeah. But I also have to ask, like, do you talk to them? Like, do you keep the mindset that while they are past, they are still intelligent?
No.
Okay.
There are times, though, where I'll go, my grandma, rather great-grandma, is buried up on Canal.
Okay.
And so I'll stop by and I'll visit the grave because none of the family really visits it. Things like that. Whenever I'm in TicTok, you know, Uncle Al was my real grandma. Her boyfriend, great man, loved him. I'll stop by his grave and I'll try to find it because that thing is hard to find. TicTok above ground? TicTok rather. Above ground graves, nightmare.
Yeah.
A nightmare. So I'll stop every now and then, but it's not a common thing. I don't think about people who died. I deal with death completely differently than the rest of my family, who my sister's still grieving about my little brother who passed away 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm like, hey, it's done.
Start opening that conversation with them, because I communicate with my loved ones on a daily basis in the sense of either like I'm complaining about something, like, thanks Dad, this is why I'm traumatized. Like I constantly, and then something every day. I'm definitely not just talking to like, you know, no one.
Right.
But it is the kind of thing of where I'll be working on something in my office and I'll see a picture of my mom and I'm like, oh, you know, this would have been a lot easier if you know, would have taught me this. Thanks. I understand that they are dead and I accept that they are dead. That's a big part of grief. But then the realization of that, you know, I know that they're listening. So I want to talk to them. I want to keep that door open. And a lot of people are very big about closing that door for their own mental health, which is fine because you have to do whatever you can to get acceptance in your grief. But have those conversations. If you're doing something, say you're eating dinner and you're like, you know, Mom, you know, so-and-so really loved this. I wonder what she would think about how I made it.
Yes.
Kind of have those things. And then it can literally be that quick of a thought. And then move on to something else. And then if you notice, you know, I've turned on the TV and they'll be talking about someone named Deborah. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, thanks, Ma. It's little things like that. And the reason why they want you to be so present is because they want you to remember that you have a life that's still to live. And if you're worried about X, Y, and Z, that doesn't matter. And you're away from the present, which is where your rest and your peace is supposed to be. They want to help you get back to that because that's what they have.
Okay. All that makes great sense.
And it does. And if you would like to have a reading with Sean Michael Rutherford, also known as Auntie Sean, and also you have the Auntie Sean spray.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about that.
So years ago, I used to rent an office, and I was in a PR company, and which was really interesting. And I had an office, and the energy at the office got a little funky because there was a lot of stress. So I would have clients come over, and I would just put some oils together that I really liked, and made a spray. And then the next day, everybody came in. They're like, "Man, the office feels different." And I was like, "You're welcome."
I need a gallon of that.
And so I just kept kind of perfecting it and using it. And all my clients, when I did see people in person before COVID, they really loved it. They found it was really relaxing. I liked it. I would use it between readings. And then my partner started using it for his anxiety, which it's not a medically thing. It does not like remove anxiety. But the smell of it helped him just relax. And he's just like, you need to put this out there. And I was like, all right, Aiden. And so I went to the Witch Depot and I said, hey, look, I have this and I do not want to deal with shipping. I do not want to deal with putting this on my website. I said, how do we do this? And she's like, well, I'll sell it and I'll just buy it from you wholesale. I said, perfect. So it is exclusively through the Witch Depot in Kenner. Okay. I do not sell it anywhere else because I'm a loyal bitch. But it is meant to help like cleanse your house. When I do house cleansings or people want a house blessing, when they moved in, I will go in and I use the spray and It's just, you don't need much, but it has 3 different sizes, unless it's sold out for the 2 ounce that kept selling out at Witch Depot.
Wow.
Not to humble brag, but
Hey, do it.
but it's an 8 ounce and a 4 ounce that I know she has, and then there's a 2 ounce I think she might have some left of.
This is for work, 8 ounces.
Yeah.
And you only need a couple sprays. Like I have an 8 ounce bottle at home because I use it between clients, and I do like 3 clients a day. And so, but yeah, but it's meant to just help, like, as the bottle says, it's just a Cajun cleansing spray to help clear out old energy and raise your spirits, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I have thoroughly enjoyed you being a guest here on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
informative.
Oh, I know. And I hope that you'll join us again.
20 years of doing this, I better be informative.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God.
20 years, wow.
I was 14 when I started studying this. When I went into homeschooling, because I got abused so much in school, it was so traumatizing. I would make my dad drop me off at the mall to deal with my agoraphobia, and like leave me there for hours, and that's where I started like learning how to hone in on people. And then like a few years later, I realized that was like unethical because I was reading on people without their consent. Mm-hmm. And then started studying and practicing it intentionally with people that I could sit down for more than 5 minutes. And then 19, I started doing it professionally when people started paying me and tipping me, and I was like, okay, and just went from there. 36 now, God. And I love it. This is the one thing that I've done my entire life that I am the most proud of, because every time I hear from a client, they're like, oh my God, this helped so much. I was like, then that's all that mattered.
And I read your reviews.
Well, thank you.
Well, I did my research.
5 stars,
Of
obviously.
course. Wonderful. And you have, what, over 4 million views on...
Oh God, no. I have like 78,000 followers on TikTok. Where I
you
do
might
wanna
need to look again.
mention that on real quick, because
okay.
there are a lot of frauds on TikTok.
Okay.
On social media, because people do not understand really how to identify real and fake readers. Well, they'll take pictures of the people who have a large following, and then they'll create fake accounts.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I only have one account on all social media.
Okay.
And it is Medium. It's a Medium Auntie Shawn on TikTok, Medium Auntie Shawn on Instagram. That is the only ones, and they are not misspelled, because I know how.
You don't spell your
I
name.
do not. I know how to spell my name.
Thank you.
And so and I will never solicit. So as an ethical medium, I will never ask you if you want a reading. You will always have to reach out to me.
77,000 followers and 460,000 likes. That's impressive.
That's very
That's
impressive.
fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you,
One more.
everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Cody, for being my co-host
you.
tonight.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, and of course, I appreciate you. And we got to do karaoke again, right?
Yes.
All right. So everybody, thank you to Brandon also for directing, producing. Love you, Moxie Studios, and we will see you next week right here on Quest.